The Mandela effect. A very strange phenomenon. I'm sure almost all of us have experienced it at some point. From movies to products we see on grocery store shelves every day, it seems our collective memory gets a lot of things wrong. Either that or something stranger could be going on. One of the most famous scenes in The Matrix is the big revelation between Morpheus and Neo, where Morpheus sits Neo down and gives him the option of taking the red or blue pill. Now, everyone swears that Morpheus's speech starts off with him saying, "Now what if I told you?" followed by the speech, "The Matrix is everywhere. It's all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that's been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth." Now, most of these lines are all actually in the movie, all except one. The very first line, that "what if I told you" part. Fans will swear up and down that Morpheus says that line, but it's not in the movie. And given the plot of The Matrix, it just makes this Mandela effect all the more unsettling. Next up, we have another one of the most famous lines in cinematic history, although this one does exist, although not exactly in the form everyone says it does. "Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get." People quote the line all the time. People write it out in quotes and articles about the movie, but as it turns out, the line doesn't go exactly like that. Forrest actually says, "Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates." Okay? Now, later in the movie, you do see his mom say life is a box of chocolates, but not life is like a box of chocolates. Kinda easy to see how this one gets all confused, right? But, I mean, for such a famous line, it's crazy how many people get it wrong. Also kinda crazy to me how famous the line is in general. It's not a great line, I don't think. I mean, I know what I'm gonna get in a box of chocolates. Chocolate of some kind. The flavors are different, yeah, whatever, but they're all relatively the same size. They're all chocolate. Life's more like a bag of trail mix. Most of it's boring, but occasionally you get something sweet. They put M&Ms in there. This is the fruit of the Loom logo. Or is it? We're gonna play a little game with the logo Mandela effects on this list. I'll show you a picture of the logos. You guess whether it's the accurate one or the false memory. Leave your results down in the comments. So, did the fruit of the Loom logo look like this? No, it did not. Turns out there's no cornucopia in the back. The logo actually looks like this, or at least it does now, whether you believe in the altered timeline thing or not. This is one I could have sworn it looked different. It just looks so plain with the cornucopia missing. So what's going on here? Are we just remembering it differently? Is our current timeline being altered? Are different timelines converging? Are we trapped in a virtual world that's glitching? Again, share your thoughts down below. Alright, next logo in our Mandela effect game. Take a second to examine this Cheez-It logo here. Is this the right one? If you guessed yes, then you are actually right. This is the actual Cheez-It logo, but many people, including myself, thought it looked more like this, with the Z on the end. Cheez-Its, not Cheez-It. Cheez-Its just sounds snackier, if that's a real word. Now, the obvious explanation for this one is that people will often say it plural when speaking out loud. You're not gonna be like, hey, pass me the box of Cheez-It. You're gonna say Cheez-Its. So people might just have it in their minds that it's Cheez-Its, but that's the strange part. Look at pretty much every food product. Maybe not every one, but most of them. There's usually an S on the end for this reason. Skittles, Mentos, Fruit Loops, Doritos, Fritos, Tostitos, Lay's. If the name of the product is the food itself and not a family or like company name, like Nestle, it's usually in plural. So why Cheez-It? Just feels awkward. Well, maybe because it was actually different before. We move on to a Star Wars Mandela effect now, and no, I'm not referring to the Luke I am your father thing that's been talked about to death. I'm referring to C-3PO's silver leg, because yes, he has one. The lower part of one of his legs is silver, and apparently always has been. Now, this is not one of George Lucas's many pointless updates. It's apparently just always like this. Now, I watched the original Star Wars movies a lot when I was a kid, not as much as Star Trek, but fair amount, and I never recall C-3PO having any silver on his body. Like, his whole thing was that he's this elegant looking gold robot. All the toys of C-3PO, none of them had a silver part of the leg. The new ones do, but not back in the day. You'd think that would be a pretty obvious detail to include though, wouldn't you? Now, I want to say this one might have something to do with the fact that we used to watch Star Wars at home on smaller screens and lower VHS quality. Once the movies were remastered and stuff, everything got more clear, but I mean in the 70s on the big screen, no one noticed the silver part of his leg, really? I don't know. What do you Star Wars nuts have to say about this one? Do you remember the silver or not? One of the most recognizable cartoon characters in history is Mickey Mouse. In fact, I think he is the most recognizable. All you need to see are those ears and you automatically think Mickey Mouse in Disney. But there's a detail that a number of people seem to forget. His tail. Yes, this one is the polar opposite of the famous Curious George Mandela effect. In case you didn't know, Curious George actually does not have a tail. Mickey Mouse does though. Makes sense that he has a tail, considering he's a mouse, but you also have the whole Goofy and Pluto both being dogs thing, so realism really isn't the focus in this universe. Now to be fair, Mickey doesn't have a tail in every single depiction, but pretty much every major one. And I don't know about you, but I just don't picture it when I think of the character. It's not a new thing either. Way back in Mickey's very first appearance, he has the tail. Next up we have this image here of a delicious KitKat bar. Look at that, just a nice tasty snack, classic red packaging, logo looks in order, right? What do you think? No, this image has been photoshopped. The real logo looks like this. No hyphen between the kit and the cat. And just like everything on this list, apparently that's always been the case. So many people remember there being a hyphen though. How I'd love to go back in time, walk into a convenience store, just to confirm if that were the case. I'd also grab a KitKat chunky peanut butter, because I don't think they make them anymore. Those things were spectacular. What color is Carmen Sandiego's outfit? Most people would just say red and leave it at that, but if you're like me, you also have this strange memory of seeing Carmen Sandiego in a yellow outfit as well. In fact, there are lots of people who remember this. Only no one can find any depiction of her having ever worn a yellow coat or hat. Here are a couple comments from Redditors. I remember the show, the cartoon back in the late 90s, and I could swear on a stack of holy Bibles the size of Mount Everest that Carmen Sandiego used to wear a yellow hat and yellow trench coat. Here's another. The PC game was played in class, 88, 89. My teacher would play it in front of class while everyone in the room played along with open dialogue. I remember the logo screen and her wearing her yellow trench coat and matching hat. I also remember her on the TV show in the same yellow. Comments like this go on and on. So what is going on here? Some people will say that we're getting things confused with Dick Tracy, who famously wears all yellow, but I mean, Dick Tracy, really? They're both very different characters. I mean, Dick Tracy is a comic strip about a detective that came out in the 1930s. Carmen Sandiego is a series of PC games about a female globe-trotting thief that came out in 1985. The only Dick Tracy thing anyone would have been super familiar with around this same time would have been the live-action Dick Tracy movie in 1990, and again, that was live action, so it would be odd that people would have blended it with a 2D animated character in their brains, but I mean, I guess it's possible. Before we get to the last point, let's finish off our Mandela effect product game. This is an image of the Raisin Bran mascot. Look correct to you? Is something off? What do you think? Leave your comments down below. Well, this has actually been photoshopped. The Raisin Bran's son has never had sunglasses. Who else distinctly remembers him wearing a pair of shades though? Just feels right, doesn't it? And we finish off today with Pikachu's tail. This is the first Mandela effect that really hit me. I always thought I knew how Pikachu looked in my brain, but I remember first hearing about the whole Mandela effect phenomenon, and Pikachu was brought up along with an image just like this, and I was like, damn, yeah, I distinctly remember Pikachu having the black on the end of the tail. And no, not talking about Pichu. Pichu has never been nearly as recognizable and popular as Pikachu. I even had a friend who swore they had a small Pikachu plush when they were kids with the black on the end of the tail, and it would have been before Pichu even showed up. So I don't know, am I saying this is a genuine altering of the timeline or something like that? Who's to say? All I know is there could be something to this one. And what are some of your Mandela effects? What are some things that you remember very differently in your brain? Let us know down in the comments. And with that said, I've been your host James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.